Welcome on board.
Thank you for having me. Welcome.
Thanks for coming. We've been trying to get this one teed up for probably about a year now, haven't we?
Yeah.
And the stars have finally aligned. It is 1st of February 2019. Snow's outside. You've battled your way in from Warrington.
Yeah.
And we're going to be a bit progressive today and try something new, because this is the first time that we are going on YouTube Live. So I don't know if anyone's actually watching yet. Probably not, but we'll see if anyone joins us on that one. And the reason being is we find that after speaking with Keith Webb a couple of weeks ago on the last episode, it was a bit more of a natural conversation. So we've got loads of questions that have come in of people from Twitter, which is really great. Hopefully give us a bit of a framework for a conversation. Anything that we don't answer,
Pick up on any channel later down the line. Yeah. No problem at all.
Yeah. So I've been really looking forward to this one for a while now, because I think since we met a good few years ago now,
5.
yeah, we've had many a debate and discussion around goalkeeping and practice and what have you. But before we kick off, star sixes.
Yeah, I'm glad that's come up. We'll get it out of the way.
Come on.
Which bit do you want?
Well, you've kept it very quiet, because I went down the rabbit hole last night and I found you in a Republic of Ireland shirt.
That's right, yeah. So where do you want to start?
You start from the beginning.
Yeah, okay. I was as a youngster when I played for Liverpool, I was ended up playing for Ireland in kind of like the 19s, kind of 20s kind of age group. So my mother's Irish, and obviously all her ancestors are Irish from County Wicklow. So ended up playing. So fast forward roughly 15 years, and obviously know a few people, obviously from the game, people like Jason McAteer, Lee Carsley, people like that. And Jason was putting together the Republic of Ireland team. They were obviously, I was obviously first choice, obviously above Shay Given and Paddy Kenny and people like that. I think they were struggling to get the lads out of the clubs, because they're all coaching. So they asked me if I'd be willing to play. So my initial reaction was, amazing opportunity to go and play in such an event, and it is an amazing event. So I just checked first whether it'd be okay from an FA point of view, from obviously working for England, which it was. So I jumped at the opportunity to go and do it. My initial reaction was, I haven't played in golf for kind of 5 years now. So since I've been at the FA, obviously my role's a bit more strategic. So I'm on the pitch coaching for 100 days and probably off it for kind of 250, doing the other stuff. Versus when you're in a club, you tend to join in with the players, whatever age group you're working with, and do a bit, dive around. So I hadn't actually saved a ball for probably 5 years. Some would argue I hadn't saved one for 5 years before that also. So I was a bit pessimistic really about actually being able to save it, especially given the standard of the lads who were playing. So I approached the tournament, and I was more than comfortable with the ball at my feet, because I do a lot of serving, do a lot of kicking. I'm good with the ball at my feet, so I was like, right, I'll be fine with that. Just concentrate on keeping it out of the net. So I ended up in the tournament. I think it was game where it happened. Game 2-0 against Scotland. We struggled 4v5 eventually. And then second game was against Wales. Everything was going well. Phil Babb turned round, passed it back from about 20 yards away. No one in my half. So I'm obviously looking up the pitch to see how I can receive it, and then obviously pass it forward. And as I'm receiving it, I'm still looking up, and it's literally gone under my foot. So it's gone under my foot. So I've spun round to try and get it. Realised I couldn't get it, but then realised we'd kind of talked about before the game that if as a team you let a goal in, it's probably the best time to kind of counter attack, because the other team is celebrating, they're out of shape. So whenever you let a goal in, just play. So I've just picked the ball up, put it down, and tried to play. So tried to play up to Owen Coyle, who wasn't looking. He got intercepted, and they came straight back down. Luckily, I saved it at the bar. But it'd be fair to say that I got a little bit of stick after it. My phone battery actually ran out when I got back to the changing room, because there was that many messages and Twitter things and all that, and got a bit of stick. So it was funny, but luckily in that game, I was distraught, because it would have meant we'd lost the game and kind of been out of the tournament really. But at the end of the game, I was offered the chance to be able to make a good save and win the game for us, which I did. So the lads it got papered over really. So I got away with it from that point of view. But no, I wouldn't change it. It was it was funny. It was a funny moment.
I'm definitely going to go down the rabbit hole and see if I can find that on YouTube.
Oh, you'll be able to find it. You'll be able to find it.
I feel your pain. Andy Smith, our development manager at Liverpool FA, on Tuesday night, instead of watching my beloved Newcastle beat Man City, he wrote me into playing futsal on Tuesday, and it was the first time I've played futsal in probably 4 or 5 years, and we had to have a quick recap of the new laws around the goalkeeper, and I only managed to score, I think, 2 own goals and play a back pass to the goalkeeper, who obviously couldn't receive it because he'd already played it out to me. Yeah, I made myself look completely stupid, but got a good sweat on anyway. So you mentioned your role at the moment. So why don't you tell us a bit more about current role, what's led to that, and what a kind of typical week or month looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I'm 5 years now at the FA. I originally came in as a goalkeeping coach and coach educator to solely work on the kind of level 3 and 4 awards, which would be the Youth Award, the Advanced Youth Award, and the Goalkeeping B licence and UEFA B licence, as well as coaching the under-19 and a lot of the other development teams. So that lasted for about 2 years, 3 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing. It's great, I have to say. I really enjoyed that role. Then I made the step over just to do international football, which means just the teams. So I stepped over to the men's teams to lead the coaching on that. So I kind of headed up the goalkeeping parts of everything from 15 to 21, which is about putting together a strategy and getting a common message in place, and coaching the way we wanted to coach, selecting how we wanted to select, recruiting the right staff to work with that, and embedding what we do into the full programme. So another kind of 2 years doing that, and then we had a little bit of a restructure or reshuffle about 12, 18 months ago, where we decided to bring all the goalkeeping departments back together, really, because they'd been kind of split up. So my job title was changed then to Head of Goalkeeping, which basically means I'm responsible for senior men, senior women, men's development teams, women's development teams, and the goalkeeping coach education and the talent ID. So kind of there's 5 strands to it, really. I don't necessarily lead and tell people what to do. I'm more a bringing together of people and common thought. I'm trying to help people in the right direction. So obviously what we want to achieve as an FA of obviously winning the World Cups in 4 years, and also to unite the game, inspire the nation, and do that by everything we do, really. So privileged to have some great people across the department. There's kind of 19 goalkeeping staff, so to speak, in the across all them formats. Some really talented people who definitely specialise in what they do, and I think they're starting to add massive value to the wider program.
So you head up all those 19 goalkeeper coaching staff.
Yeah.
And you still get on the pitch yourself and watch?
So yeah, that's a bit of a miss. So I'm currently in my 3rd season with the under-21s. Right. So I work with AD Boothroyd. I've been those seasons now. So you qualify for 2 years into the European finals, and then go to Toulon, which is a prestigious tournament in France, every year. So I've done that now for 3 years. I also still actively go and work on goalkeeping camps, deliver some coach education, support all the other coaches in how they coach, and generally just get around and try and make people think about what they're doing, really.
I think you've done well there, because I mean, how important is it to you that within your role that you still keep yourself grounded and educating as well?
Really important. You can't afford to. You're going to bring the Star Sixes on back now. You can't take your eye off the ball. From that point of view, it's important that you stay current. It's important that you're able to relate to the players and whatever the current trends are at that time, and also that your knowledge is actually applied. It's not just on a flip chart or on a PowerPoint. This is something that we did with the 21s, or this is something that we worked on with the coaches at any given club, and then ultimately the ability to pass on that insight or suggested knowledge the robustness and quality of what you're suggesting or doing.
Yeah, and well, when you say passing on the knowledge, that was just reminded me of the last time I saw you, which was just before Christmas, wasn't it? Down at the Belfry. So in our grassroots unit, I think there was about 80 of us down there, the whole grassroots unit, and yourself and AD came and delivered it was a brilliant presentation, I have to say. You were very self-deprecating, but I thought your presentation skills were brilliant. But the detail and the kind of the openness and the amount that you were able to share with us, I know all our guys really found it useful. I don't know if you want to go into any more detail around that.
Well, you say now environment situation you work in, so it's definitely one of my approaches that I'm more suggesting ideas and ways of doing things than telling. 100%. It's definitely got more. It carries more weight if the two ideas meet, and it makes you evolve your own ideas and approach rather than be put upon by someone who gets the ball under the foot in a 6-a-side tournament. So definitely that. I'm definitely open to challenge, and because it makes me better if people can think something I do can be better, to the team win. So I'm by no means suggesting that I've got the right way.
No.
And I think to deliver that kind of message with
that was what came across to me, was the chemistry between you and AD. So there seemed to be a real double act, but I get the sense that there is that openness to challenge.
You would be accurate in what you say. So I think it's healthy to be willing to be wrong. Otherwise, you'll never try anything and find anything out. So if you're not willing to step out your comfort zone, I just think I have that you're willing to get something wrong.
Yeah. And
how that would play out in a session. So I would have been with the 21s, goalkeepers times many, where we're doing an exercise and say, right lads, this is where the ball starts. You're going to receive it from here. There might be some pressure. You respond to that pressure, and then this is where the second ball will come from, and you come up with a solution to the scenario. And we'd have a couple of goes at it, and it'd look absolutely awful, and it would have gone wrong. So then we might start the session and say, what's going on here?
So what might the scenario be then? If you can give us an example of.
So let's say the goalkeeper starts in the middle of the goal. When a ball appears 30 yards out, which they're going to receive as a pass. As they receive it as a pass, they've got to give a certain support position. As they're getting into that support position, the person that they're passing it to would be constantly moving and changing position. So they've got to decide where and how they pass it.
Yep.
They don't know what type of pass it's going to be. After that, they might have to reposition to face a shot from any given distance, angle, or outcome. So it might look like it might look a bit messy. Sometimes I'd say, yeah, that's too far away, or that's an unrealistic position. Get it right. So having that ability, having that approach where you can be wrong and accept that you haven't got all the answers and all the setup and stuff is important. So my point being is that just willing to get it wrong and willing to try things gives you the ability to stretch yourself and learn further things, because that's what we ask the players to do ultimately. So I think we should also model that as staff and as educators, or be able to see yourself.
Yeah, and I guess that you've got that unique position on the coaching staff where just purely down to the ratio of numbers, you get the chance to develop those real significant relationships with it, because you're only working with how many? 3?
You'd probably work with 4 max, really.
Yeah. So how does that evolve as you go through the camp?
Yeah. So although that's what you mentioned there as a benefit, can also be a benefit and privilege, can also be overused and a real risk. As a goalkeeping coach, I've got the ability to form a tight-knit relationship with 3 or 4 goalkeepers over any given period of time, but that can very quickly become unhealthy. I think you might correct me if I'm wrong here. One of the natural instincts or built into us as humans is that we want to impress people, help people, and gain the ability to be wanted. The need to be wanted is quite deep within us. So when you've got 3 or 4 people to provide that need to them, you actually do things that makes them feel nice, makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel like they need you, giving them a lot of support, and you actually might create too much of a comfort zone and a comfort blanket and an easy environment for them. And where that line is drawn between them wanting you versus them needing you, it is easily overstepped. So you've got to manage that relationship and that environment really carefully, that you're not creating a false, too nice, too comfortable excuse environment. There's got to be some common ground where you're agreeing that part of it is going to be difficult, part of it you're going to struggle with, part of it you're not going to like, and agree and contract that you're going to provide that kind of unconditional support, but it's not fake support.
So when you were a keeper, where did you sit on that spectrum, and how did your experiences with the coaches that you work with shape you who you are today?
So I was into the position quite late, really, kind of professionally. So I was like 14 before I got any proper coaching, and at 14, you're a little bit like, what's going on here? Especially when you're straight into. I went to Blackburn Academy at 14, so it was a bit of an eye opener. Just the actual practices we were doing, I was getting my head around them. And then I signed my scholarship at Liverpool, and was really fortunate to work with. There wasn't a goalkeeping coach then, by the way. So when I signed, the goalkeeping coach was part-time. He would only come in. Billy Stewart, fantastic guy, would only come in 2 afternoons a week. So basically, all of our training was just with the outfield players. So we didn't have any specific goalkeeping training for every session. So Billy would come, and the 2 or 3, 4 of us would go out in the afternoon and do like a 2-hour session, and like really refine our kind of goalkeeping skills, so to speak. I have to say, I think Billy was a bit of an anomaly, really, with how he coached and questions he asked you, and he was challenging and demanding of you in a different way.
Such as?
He wanted you to understand any given exercise, why you make any given decision. It wasn't drills and him telling you what to do. It was scenarios for you to come up with them. So that was my kind of grounding as a goalkeeper, that which I think teed me up nice as a coach. So my experience of being in them two nice environments didn't really happen. When I left Liverpool, I went into like Conference North, non-league scenarios where you didn't really have a goalkeeping coach. I did it all myself, so I kind of missed out on that side of it. And then when I started doing the coaching, I probably saw and witnessed more of the stuff that I think is a bit more dangerous, like the question you asked. So, what was the question?
Well, dangerous. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think dangerous is where you create an environment that's too comfortable, too friendly, too close to the goalkeeper. Is too friendly. There has to be a boundary.
Okay, yeah. So the question was, so those coaches that you work with in your experience as a player, you talking about that spectrum of want and need.
Yeah.
Did you see yourself sitting anywhere kind of constant on that spectrum, or did it vary?
I think like when I say want and need, I never really had that because I didn't get the coaching and support at that age, so I had to kind of just survive myself really. But when I see it now, I think some goalkeepers at any given age, any given level, want to get their eye in, to feel good, to just get a good feel of the ball, that kind of stuff, versus what they need, which is the game, which is chaotic, which is random, which is difficult, which is ugly, which is unpredictable. So them two things have got a massive difference. I went to watch Man United versus Burnley the other night, and I watched Tom Heaton warm up. Tom's a fantastic goalkeeper. I watched him warmed up, and his warm up was very structured, very repetitive, very comfortable, all very. He got out everything that he wanted from it. Everything, the ball went to the right place. He knew where everything was. And then he went into the game. I think he got man of the match, and he was outstanding in the game. And the saves that he made in the game were unpredictable, random. He had to solutionise. He had to improvise. He had to come up with unique actions, given what the scenario was given. So I'm just interested in that kind of what any given person perceives that they want versus what they actually need. and deep down we need, adaptable athletic decision makers who are able to, solutionise on the spot. And so surely that kind of mental bit that you want to give yourself before the game and during the week has to replicate.
The analogy I can draw from that is we were talking about golf before we hit record, and I said I'm a frustrated handicapper trying to get down to single figures. And what I do before
just playing
before I tee off, like, you can't do that in a comp. Unfortunately, the rules don't allow it. But my pre-comp routine, shall we say, on the putting green is I like to just knock a few putts in, a few short putts before I go onto the tee, just to give myself a confidence boost, which is great until you miss one, and then you're going on the first tee having missed a 2-3 footer, and as soon as you get onto the first green, you get stood over one of them. It's like, oh no. And I read a book, a book by Bob Rotella, who's a psychologist. It's a really interesting read, actually, for just in coaching in general. Comes at some real common sense principles, but he advocates completely against doing any sort of short putting for that reason. He said just get a feel for some distance and get out there and accept that it's going to be messy and chaotic and it's never going to go to plan. So actually that probably brings us on to a question that we got in from Twitter. So warm-ups. So
match day warm-ups.
Yeah. So do you think, how much of a hand do you think Tom would have had in that warm-up? Would he have?
Yeah, no, that would have been his warm-up and his routine. And I completely understand that there is a place in sport and in anything for routine and getting yourself into a mental position where you feel right. I suppose what I'm challenging is what happens when it doesn't go right and when you haven't got the time allotted to put yourself in that position. The bus is late, kickoff's moved, there's bad weather, you get disrupted, things like that. Have you got a strategy?
Through two scenarios. Well, yeah, let's go through a few scenarios then.
Let's go.
Grassroots team, let's say teenage years.
Yeah.
So they've got a goalkeeper who might be starting to specialise, and we'll come on to that.
Yeah.
That's a hot one. Let's run through two. So what first scenario is there's only one coach and no parents, so the coach is on his or her own.
Yeah.
And then the second scenario is there might be two coaches.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to those two? Match day warm up.
So coach on their own. It depends how they're warming the rest of the players up, but I think it would be a case of the people, a certain amount of the players would be able to go with the goalkeeper and perform some kind of exercise where they're all getting something out of it, whether that be a passing drill into a ball striking drill, into a crossing drill, into anything. So having players that are able just to work with the goalkeeper or that unit to do some stuff. I would also say to that, like, if you just I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this, but if they are, just picture what the first 5 things your goalkeeper does in a game, and I would imagine probably 2 of them are going to be passes or kicks. One of them will be coming out to claim a ball from like a ball over the top or a through ball, and then maybe 1 or 2 of them might be some kind of like 1v1 or basic kind of scenario save. So what you end up equipping yourself for if you go through this routine is like every eventuality under the sun. So I think it's probably sometimes better to do like a themed warm-up where kind of anything can happen, and it's just more of like a rotation, gamey type scenario practice where there's a pass and there's I'm going to kick it at you a bit harder now, and then I'm going to run it
I like that.
Just equipping yourself physically and mentally for I'm just going to deal with what happens.
Yeah, getting off to a good start.
Yeah.
And even just from what we said before.
Sorry. Just on top of that, and doing it at intensity as well. So putting yourself in, because you see some warm-ups, it's really relaxed, really slow. You don't really look physically like engaged. So actually doing it at the intensity and the right mindset that you would in a game. Sorry.
No, that's fine. So it just got me thinking there about even at that age, at grassroots level, involving the goalkeeper in designing and helping shape the warm-up and actually getting across, because they might have things that they've done previously that have never been questioned before that are just common practice, but actually explaining, look, these are the first 5 things that might well happen or likely to happen at the start of the game. let's get you up to a good start. So let's maybe try and practice some of these in the warm-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would just be for normal coaching as well, wouldn't it? Sometimes you end up practicing. You ultimately need to weight where you place the importance on what you want to be good at or what you want to develop.
Yeah.
If you weight it too much on perfect scenarios of predictable balls or predictable service or where they're going to go, you neglect some of the things that you need to be good at around decision making and solutionizing from any given situation. Yeah.
I've not heard this word before.
Solutionizing.
Have you made it up?
I might have done, yeah. I must have done.
I like it.
Is it a word?
I don't know, but it is now.
We'll Google it.
Okay. So you talked about the first action that the goalkeeper might have. One of the other things that came in was around feet and hands and the ratio of. And
wasn't there a question about if there was a group on their own and a group?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. So the question was if the coach was on his or her own, and then if the coach happened to have an assistant to help.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I still think the assistant should use some other players as well to facilitate that kind of.
My own practice, what I'm doing now, we take 16. So the maximum that our league allow on a match day for on the side is 16 players. So I find that we tend to just have a phase of play.
Yeah. Which
just starts with the goalkeeper, with a back four and a midfield four against I think a midfield four and a front three. So 8v8. And that in terms of trying to just draw any sort of realism out, it tends to hurt. What you've sacrificed majorly in terms of the goalkeeper, I find, and that is just repetition.
Yeah.
Repetition of being involved on the ball with the hands and the feet.
And that is a consequence, isn't it, of doing that? And that requires some mental agility from the goalkeeper to be coupled with that, but to also from a coaching point of view, how do you give them a bit more repetition on that? So it's a challenge that we've come across with the England teams. So I'll give you an example. When goalkeepers come in and start working with us, so you might get a goalkeeper from a club. I'll give you an example. I'm sure he won't mind me using it. Goalkeeper from Newcastle called Freddie Woodman, who's been in the system for a long time. So he would have been a little bit younger and came in. He would have been very logical thinker, very set in, wanting to feel good and do how he wanted. And he'd want to go through some kind of routines where he does some catching, and, then some more catching, and then a bit more catching, all predictable. And then he'd go through this routine that might take about 35, 40 minutes. You're not allowed on the pitch before the game. On the grass before the game to warm up. So how do you get your 40 minutes worth of stuff in when you're not on the grass? Then what about if you're late for a game and you've only got 15 minutes? What do you prioritise then? Do you prioritise the 400 catches that you're going to do? Or do you prioritise some of the more decision-making, bigger movement stuff? So being agile enough mentally and physically in that kind of warm-up to know where do you want to be at the end of it is really important.
So how did you deal with that then?
Well, we practiced scenarios where he only got a certain amount of time to warm up. We also took some things away from him, right? So you're only allowed to like kind of not quite pick 4 of your exercises, but right, if you want to do 40 catches, you're only allowed to do 10 of something. What do you want to do? So he had to then pick the bits that he wanted to do, and he ended up becoming and is really agile in his ability to get himself game ready. He's got multiple warm-ups that can last from 10, 15 minutes all the way up to 40. So having that ability to do both is key, ready for that what if, which is a big question that we all need to ask ourselves.
There's grassroots coaches out there nodding along in agreement, going, it's not just me that has to deal with that then. And with these, you will turn up to a facility and maybe the previous game has kicked off late without you realising it, and you've got literally 5 minutes turnaround to team talk, warm up, get the game kicked off. Yeah. These are common scenarios that.
So 2 years ago, Freddie won the World Cup with the under-20s, and they weren't allowed on the pitch for certain games and stuff like that. They dealt with it and succeeded. Last summer, we went to the Toulon tournament, which is a fantastic tournament, but I think it'd be fair to say that the facilities and the organisation is not up to the standard of FIFA and UEFA. So we get through to the final and we're playing Mexico. But the third and fourth place playoff is being played on the pitch before our game. So what happens? Goes to extra time and penalties. So obviously you think they'll push our kick-off back. No. What we'll do, the tournament organiser says, when they start taking penalties, you can go out and warm up in the other half. Okay, but you're forgetting that there's 2 teams who've all got, let's say, 18 in the squad. So there's 36 players, and 4 coaches per team. So you've got like 40 odd players in a half of the pitch. So as that was happening, as a coach, I was certain and confident that the goalkeepers would be able to adapt and put themselves in that situation with no issue at all. And he did do, and we went on and won. We played well in the game. I'm not putting it down to being able to warm up, but just another example of doing things in your development kind of years and ages that you might have to call upon later down the line. You never know when that might happen.
No, and it's well, there's a number of ways I want to kind of take you off here, but while we're on the international stuff, one of the things that really struck me in your presentation at Christmas from the 21s was the data and the stats and the use of or caution with that. You presented that. I don't know if you want to kind of enlighten some of the listeners with that.
So I think it's probably a part of football that hasn't been explored or delved into as much as some other sports. I personally don't think it's the holy grail or the be all and end all, but I definitely want to open myself up to saying, right, what does the data say about certain situations and certain parts of games? So I've kind of thrown myself into that world a little bit to kind of find out what it actually is right. So if I'm suggesting that any given goalkeeper is a top goalkeeper and they're a good player and this to that, are they actually having an impact on the game positively versus is it just anecdotal? Oh, it looked nice, it looked like a good technique, or you could never have saved that, or it was a wrong pass. So we've devised and designed a metric system which measures our in possession game and our out of possession game and what impact it has on the opposition. So that gives us some objective data. Is that right?
Yep.
I always get them too mixed up. Gives us some objective data from games, which from one game isn't enough, but from a series of games becomes more accurate. And we've been able to start asking ourselves if we're suggesting that goalkeepers need to exploit space more in possession and manage space more out of possession, are they actually doing that in the games when it matters? So we've coded, clipped, whatever you want to call it, probably just short of 400 England youth games now and senior games. So we've got some objective data on like what certain goalkeepers are doing in certain games against certain nations and formations under differing amounts of pressure. So we're starting to know like what good looks like. I hate saying that. What good looks like. That's a terrible saying. What good might be like on the pitch. What might people see? What might you feel when you're doing it? So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that impressed me was like you said, you didn't just take each game at face value. You kind of had different gradings of games. I think you were looking at some stats from the World Cup and how they was it the percentage retention and what struck me was the players' response and how they engaged with the stats.
Yeah, so we do measure possession. We do measure where they pass it versus the success rate, and then we also add a layer on top of that of when they were under pressure. So you might have 100 passes in a game, but only 5 of them were you under pressure on. So that percentage or that stat is then skewed. So we measure the times that they're under pressure and what the drop off or increase is there. So ideally, you want goalkeepers who are able to keep possession of the ball, depending on what your tactical strategy is, under pressure and without pressure, and then work out what games they may have dropped off versus what games they have succeeded higher. So
how do you define under pressure?
Time or space.
Okay. Example.
So back pass, you play it back to me, no striker presses me, I'm under no pressure. So I've got the time, the choice, the space to choose from. you pass it back to me, striker presses me, I've then got the pressure of time because you're gonna get to me within, let's say, 3 seconds. Or the space, you're 12 yards away, so I've got that pressure of your presence coming up to me.
Okay.
So that would be a pressure situation.
Because I guess that's still a little bit subjective. There's got to be a cut-off point where you say at this point the goalkeeper is under pressure or isn't under pressure.
Yeah, and I get asked questions like that quite a lot, like, well what's the, it's like black and white. I don't want it to become a black and white subject.
No.
I still want there to be some, I call it feel. I want there to be some kind of feel and craft knowledge behind it from the coach and the player, where they say, well, what's pressure to you might not be to me. So Edison's a great example of that. People say, wow, he's played out under great pressure there. Who perceives what pressure is for him? Because how he was brought up and where he was brought up and the scenarios he's been in as a youngster in Brazil, I'm not sure that 50,000 people around him screaming and someone 4 yards away from him running really fast is pressure. So defining that pressure, I think, should still be subjective.
Do you think part of that's cultural?
Yes, 100%.
Go on.
Goes back to the other stuff that I believe that we're trying to alter, and I don't want to say break, but I will break around us, about being a bit cautious, about being a bit nervous, about being a little bit risk averse. I think we should take the shackles off a bit more and just be a bit more, not flippant about it, but take a little bit more risk, try things a bit more, especially at younger ages. And ultimately what you get out the other end is probably some of the stuff that you're seeing on the telly at the moment from people like Edison and Allison.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's fascinating because a lot of the guys I knock around with and play football with are obviously Reds and Blues, and they've got 2 goalkeepers there that are fantastic with the ball at their feet. And it's been really interesting listening to the conversations about, certainly from the Reds, about how much calmer that they feel now whenever the ball's in Allison's feet. It's kind of, right, we trust he knows what he's doing here. Pressure to him isn't the same as necessarily pressure to somebody else or what we might perceive. Yeah,
correct. I think it's a really valid point, isn't it? And how is Allison or Jordan giving off that outward persona of making 40,000 people feel calm? Is it their body shape? Is it their stance? Is it their calmness? What is it that makes people feel like that? It actually sums up one of the characteristics that's in our DNA really well. So in our kind of social section, we look for something called presence, which is I'll come on to what it is in a minute. But I spoke to Lee Grant from Man United the other day. He was obviously working as goalkeeper. Working with De Gea, he's third choice goalkeeper or one of the goalkeepers for United. And someone asked him about De Gea and what he's like. And he said he's unbelievably laid back, and that he can turn up to training and be so relaxed and maybe even come across a bit blasé, then go out onto the training pitch and be the best person there. And he said he's like that in games as well. He said when he's warming up for a game, no matter what the occasion, where it's the warm-up or kick-off, he's so relaxed and calm, and Lee actually literally quoted how we define what presence is, and he said his presence affects our players and affects opposition players. So what do you mean? Well, it positively affects our own players because they then feel relaxed and confident and belief and all that, and the opposition players actually think, bloody hell, this guy's so calm and calculated and focused in what he's going to do. So that having a presence that positively affects your own players and adversely affects the opposition players, it's massive, isn't it? That.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And there's a slight parallel between the Spanish national team and the Man United first team to our Sunday team that I play in.
Yeah.
But we've just signed a keeper. Shout out to Kieran. He's a young lad, and playing at centre half in front of him, he is like having an 11th outfield player, and he has this calmness about him that he demands the ball back to him, and he's got such a great range of passing relative to us. It just relaxes everybody around you. and it's a joy to play in front of. But the game's definitely changed, hasn't it, right, in terms of the role of the goalkeeper and how much more they're being demanded to have the skills of an outfield player with the way that the game's progressing.
Yeah, no, it has. You are right in what you say, but that doesn't cancel out or dismiss the need for the more traditional approach as well, because there are certain teams who adopt certain tactics where much more emphasis is placed on their out of possession game, where they don't need to keep possession short or medium. They're just looking to kick it to a good area, and there's much more emphasis placed on them keeping it out of the net, defending the box and defending the space in front of them. So there is still a place for the latter. But if you're looking for the former, which is a possession-based team who are looking to solutionise from the back and build up, that would probably mean they have to be, or probably need to be coached supported in a different way.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge comes where you're after a certain outcome, but coaching it a certain way. So I think there's definitely still place and time for both.
Yeah.
Making sure you give the relevant kind of support needed for the outcomes most important.
And have you ever spoken to any of the guys? Right, you said about having 50,000 people there who are screaming at you or panicking perhaps, and you're and the goalkeeper is trying to keep possession for the team and play out short. Have you ever spoken to any of them and asked, or have they ever told you what's going through their head? How does that feel at that moment?
Yeah, I think yes, I have. And I think it also comes back to the type of training that you do. So thanks to your actions, that doesn't really match up to what the game looks like. So if you've got 50,000 people screaming at you and making you feel a bit uncomfortable that you're under pressure, you need to get used to that uncomfortableness. Is that another word I made up?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. You need to get used to that. So the more scenarios and situations that you can put them under duress. And I'm not suggesting you get 50,000 people behind your goal at training. The more you put them in that situation, ultimately, the more comfortable they'll be. So the lads that I've spoke to about it, I've just had, I suppose the way they've articulated best is that they're fully aware and confident in the qualities that they've got. They know what they're expected to do on the pitch, and it's their job to carry it out. They can't let the opinion and the effect and the feeling that the people behind them are having affect what they're going to do. So it's having that kind of that focus on knowing this is my job, this is part of what I've got to do. I've got to do it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be quite cold like that.
Yeah. And just rewinding back to the stats, there's something I'm quite curious about. So you spoke at length over Christmas about the players' responses and but obviously being quite measured with those. And, with the lads that I coach, we go into most games there's certain games that inevitably the outcome is not in doubt. They're going to lose the game. It's just a question of how many. For a number of maturity and developmental reasons. But one of the challenges I've got is trying to keep a team motivated and focus on process and improvement and individual performance and so on. One of the things we did recently, we decided I just took 2 clickers down to the game, and I said, look, if we want to be a possession-based team, we want to try and keep the ball. I'm just simply going to measure the number of passes that both teams make, and we'll see how we do compared to the other team. Yeah. So I think we lost the game about 9-3 or 8-3, something like that. But at the end of the game, I think we made 180 passes to the other team's 140. So actually, that was a nice way that the lads could go, well, actually, we haven't played that badly. We've tried to keep the ball down. We've got past the opponents. And yes, there's drawbacks to that, but it was that's something that the boys have asked for. Can we keep doing this? Because it's something that we can measure and start to try and improve upon. If there was, is there anything that you would perhaps advise on if somebody was looking to record some statistics to help their goalkeeper that they were working within their own team, or would it be a complete?
No, there is. I think when you're talking about developing years, aren't you?
Yeah, so these lads are 15.
Yeah, so I think this works through all ages and even into senior football, really, if you're able to come at it from the right view. I think when you're trying to improve at something or when you're trying to be successful in any given action, I really think you've got to take and look at the intention rather than the outcome. So was it a positive decision? Was it the right decision? Did you carry out what you intended to do? And then actually, was it successful? And if the answer is yeah, great, it's worked on that occasion. If it's not, going back, what would you change? And if the actual bit that didn't go wrong was just the technique or the action, you wouldn't kind of throw the baby out of the bathwater and say, well, we need to stop doing that now. Just put it in behind them or just kick it off the pitch. You've got to come back from what you're trying to achieve from it, which is the intention, and then work out why the outcome did or did not work.
Yeah.
I went to watch a game the other morning. It was an under-14 game. I won't say where, but it was an academy game between two Cat 1 academies. One was a big club and one was a lesser club, Premiership versus Championship. And the Championship club who are definitely much lower financially and stuff than the big club, went 2-0 up within about 5 minutes, and they had a striker up front who was really effective. And the reason they scored is they've been able to get the ball into midfield. The striker who was good isolated one of the other players. They got the ball to him, and he was then able to run at them and score. So they went 2-0 up, and I think they shocked themselves a little bit. And the coach, who was taking the team, and the parents' behaviour changed towards the team. So because they were 2-0 up, they still had 76 minutes to play, by the way. They were 2-0 up. They then changed and went risk averse around just keep it away from our goal. Don't take too many touches and lose the ball. And actually, when the ball went off the pitch, the parents were actually discussing about how they could waste time and kick the ball further away and go and get it back. And I'm thinking, wow, these are 14-year-old kids. You want them to get as much contact time and get into as many individual and unit battles against each other as possible during the 80 minutes. And they literally changed the way they were playing, and they went on to lose 6-7-3. They lost, but they were battered in the end. And I was stood there thinking, wow, they could have got so much more out of that if they just continued to do what they'd done at the beginning, where they had no pressure and they did believe. The whole mindset and psyche changed, and you have to really take the score away from it there sometimes. Sometimes,
yeah. And on the flip side, I can kind of empathise a little bit with what they might have been going through, because, and this is something that I'm going to start to delve into some data collection myself. Is and I'm the biggest advocate for quality motivation, understanding the reasons why young people play football. I get it. And I also observe that there are some kids, certainly at that age, that winning is actually important to them. Yeah. They don't go into the game to lose, or to try and lose. They want to try and win the game. And I think we've got to understand that and manage their expectations, but still try and create that climate where it is okay to fail. It is okay to, like you say, intention over outcome. Yeah. It's tough, and I'm learning. I'm bumping along the messy road myself as I'm going through it, and I'm trying to kind of go with them. And I want them. I don't want to take that competitive edge out of them, but on the flip side, I don't want the pain of defeat to start to deter from their enjoyment of the experience, which might then lead to them dropping out of the game. Yeah. I find it's
a little bit chicken and egg, isn't it? And I think it linked into one of the questions that was asked that came in around mistake management in a game. Because ultimately, if you become too risk averse, you don't do the things that you need to do that will ultimately make you win. If you think of any,
which is the past statistic one, and I know Ben Bartlett's been a good one at challenging that, and I would agree with him. No. I played on Sunday 100% pass completion. Not many of them went forwards.
Yeah.
So it probably didn't actually help the team too much to progress. But yeah, sorry I cut you off.
No, it's a good point. So I think kind of in response to that question, and to sum it up, like no one sets out, no one makes a decision to intentionally make a mistake. Yeah. So you don't run out of your goal to clear a ball on purpose to miss it to the striker and then kick it in. You know, you don't do that. You make the decision based on you being successful in your outcome. So what my advice to that person who asks around how you manage mistakes and how you know get perseverance on performance would be around, I call it like chunking the game. And this is something that I've done with like real young players, stroke kids, keepers, if that's such a thing, and also professionals. So you can chunk a game down into actions. So let's say your first 5 things were like we said before. You know, you've had 2 passes, 1 kick, a through ball, and a 1v1 to save. So them 5 things, you've got to you get to 5 and you get a point. So how many times you can add up your actions to 5? So 5 consecutive successful actions.
Okay.
And what that does is it just chunks the game into like bite-sized bits really. So instead of like, I want to win, I want to get everything right, you end up maybe doing things in the wrong context. Whereas if I said to you, right, go and get your next 5 things right, you would really focus a lot more closely on each of the things. So think first thing, pass right, get the pass right. Second thing might be a through ball, right? I'm not going to come for that. It's not the right one, so you drop off. And then you get to 5. It's like, right, bang, got to 5. And then you reset.
So it's not breaking the chain.
You're not breaking the chain. If you do get one wrong, though, you do break the chain and go back to 0. So it just kind of chunks the game up into smaller bits, so you can try and be successful at each action.
Is that something you've used with
and you never know whether they're being truthful or not, but they tend to like it, and it gives an added focus to what they're doing. So
one of the things
I've trained as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, I really like that, and it's in their control. You know, they own it.
Let me know how many you've got at the end of the session.
Yeah. One of the things from my experience that I found difficult, and it exposed itself more when we moved to 11-a-side, was trying to get the goalkeeper to come and play high. Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that I've said, and you'll probably tell me this is not a great idea, but just as a general principle, what I've said to our goalkeeper is, when we've got the ball in their half, just be halfway between our last defender and the goal line. So imagine, just draw a line between that. That's about right, yeah. Yeah, and then if you want to draw a line between the ball and the middle of the goal, so there's a kind of crosshair that you might want to be on. But it literally took 2 years of consistent reminder. It's probably down to my bad coaching that he didn't pick it up. But one of the things I had to constantly remind him is, because it was that fear of getting lobbed. Yeah. And I said, you know, it's going to happen. You know, the goal's 8 foot high, and you're 5'4". So this is going to happen. One of the things I had to consistently remind him is, you know, if that does happen, it's my mistake. I'll take it, because I've told you to be there. I've asked you to be there. Because in the long term, that's, I think, going to help us to play better football. Yeah. His default is to drop back, further back and further back.
I think it's important that they understand why they're doing it. So if the reason for being high and in line with the ball adds more benefit to the team than the 2 a season that go over you, I think that's understand that they would agree and buy into that importance of doing it. If you're just asking someone to do something with no rationale or reason behind it, they won't do it. Yeah, they don't see the benefit to it. I remember Rafael Benitez used to, with his goalkeepers, I'm not sure whether he still does or not, but when the ball was like out semi-wide, like that cut-back position, he would ask his goalkeepers to go towards the near post and really step away from the post to promote the chances of them cutting out a ball that was played back across goal. Right. And his rationale was, across the duration of the season, you will have more effect on the team by cutting out the ones that go across the goal than the 1 or 2 or 3 that go in at the near post from that position a year. And it's just a bit of what do you call it?
It's a breaking tradition, is it?
Yeah, it's breaking tradition, but it's a little bit of science, really, isn't it? You know, that if you just stand next to your post and stop it in your goal, the first pass doesn't go in the goal, the second one definitely will.
Yeah.
So if you stop the first pass, second pass never happens. And he was brilliant at that, saying, no, I want you to cut that out. Cut it out, stop it going across. Don't worry about the goal. If it goes in there, I'll take that. And that was at Premier League and Champions League level.
But I'm guessing that's not common practice then.
I don't think so, no.
No.
But what that needs is it needs like a real deep discussion and understanding of why you would be in any given position at any given time.
Yeah.
And then some rationale behind it and understanding from everyone.
I think it's that importance of being willing to break with tradition and not just and challenge commonly accepted practice. I can think of, I listened to a really good, it was Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. Yeah. And I think in the first series, it's really good actually. He tells a story of a basketball player, I think it was in about the 70s, in the NBA, who started taking free throws underarm.
Oh yeah.
And his free throw percentage was through the roof.
Was it?
But it wasn't. That's not the done thing.
Take it, you're allowed to do that.
You're allowed, it was within the rules. And apparently, with any, with basketball players, you're much more likely to score with an underarm than a traditional shot. And he was getting all sorts of threats and getting so much stick. I think he reverted back to and his free throw percentage went down. But I think that questioning and challenging common practice, just why are we doing this? If it's because we've always done it.
Yeah, we've had that a little bit with. I've personally done it and coached it for years, but since I've been with England and was initially at Man City, around the goalkeeper's positioning when the team has the ball, when our team has the ball, and depending what strategy you've got and what formation you play, you need the goalkeeper's position to be very fluid. We call it exploiting space in possession. So depending where the opposition are and how many players they're playing with, you need to go and find out where that space is you can exploit. So sometimes if the ball's on the left-hand side of the pitch, we would ask the goalkeeper to be on the right-hand side and high.
Are we out of possession here? Or
in possession.
Yeah.
So our team's got the ball, left side centre-half's got it. You would think the goalkeeper would be on the same side as him.
Yeah.
And quite deep, so he could get the ball. We would sometimes ask him to be on the other side of the pitch.
You'd almost be in the kind of right centre-half position.
Yeah, so which would then mean the knock-on effect is the right centre-half can push on or wider.
Yeah.
The right back can push on or in, so on and so forth. So we would ask them to do that. Now that comes as some consequences come with that around you've left your goal. So does that then become a danger or a risk? Some people may think yeah. But that would mean then some communication would have needed to have gone on between the player and the goalkeeper, whether it be verbal or visual. And then you've got the choice of once he's got the ball, he's quite far out of his goal. So what are you going to do about that? If the players stay really wide and spread, the passes become easier for the player. If the players become tighter because he's out of his goal, then you're close to the goal, but you're not going to keep the ball.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a traditional thing that we've changed around the fluidity of the support position that we want the goalkeeper to play in. Yeah. There's a lot more demand placed on that, and especially with the England team. Like if the lads and the guys, girls, everyone has to be able to do that in order to help the teams play.
Yeah, I guess that we're now starting to see the real generation shift in goalkeepers from the back pass law, because they seem to be accepted now or demanded to be that 11th outfield player, and to be involved in possession almost all the time. There's just never a moment to switch off.
Yeah.
And it's from a spectator's point of view, I find it makes the game a lot more attractive to watch. When the goalkeeper is involved and you can see that stepping into the line and allowing the rest of the back four to move on up.
Yeah. And you've got to be adaptable in that, as in you've got to be able to flip back and do it the other way as well. If a team strategy and a manager just wants you to kick it, you've got to be adaptable enough to flip back.
Yeah.
No one can be naive or stubborn enough to say no, they've got to pass it all the time, because if you play for a Cat 1 club, so let's say Jordan Pickford, so Jordan at the World Cup definitely exploited space in possession, built from the back, played risky passes, all that kind of stuff. 100% did. Rewind 6 months, 9 months, no longer. Rewind 18 months when he was at Sunderland or at one of his loan clubs. Was he doing that then? No chance. He was at his loan clubs, he was putting the ball down and he was kicking it as far as he could to the area that was determined by the manager. So the reason I say that is, in order to take the correct steps to get to the top level where you are expected to build play that we just described, you also need to show enough understanding and adaptability to play in a different style as well.
So when he was at the loan clubs, did he have the ability?
Yes,
right.
They did. Yeah. The ability to do both. But what was needed at that time from that manager for that club to stay in the league or to gain promotion or whatever it was, that's what they wanted. Yeah. Which I'm not saying is right or wrong, but you need to play to the plan of the game.
Yeah.
My belief is that it should be built. There should be much more adaptability. The best thing, the hardest thing to play against is unpredictable. If you don't know what I'm going to do when I've got the ball at my feet, you don't know how to press me or how to get it back. So if you want to press me with 4 and I pass it over your head, oh God, then you go, I'll just press you with 2 and then we play through you or around you. So to be unpredictable is the best thing, really.
So how, as a coach, do you have to behave in order to get that out of your goalkeepers or general?
Okay, so you need to. It's not just a goalkeeper. It's as a goalkeeper. Yeah, it's both. It's a goalkeeping coach and a normal coach. You need to put them into scenarios and situations where they have to come up with the right solution for that time. So if you close me down with 2 people, the right solution might be to play between the 2 of you or around you. If you close me down before, it might be to go over you. So give them different. So providing them scenarios is the best way of getting good at it.
Yeah, from experience, that one of the things I've found is, without having to think or worry too much about this, because you've got another, you could be on your own, you've got 15, 16 players to deal with. Now I've got to start focusing on what the goalkeeping returns. Sometimes it can be as much as restarting the practice from the goalkeeper or from around the goalkeeper or from certain scenarios that lend themselves to what you've just spoken about. Yeah. So if you're playing in some sort of game-based or a match, how might we restart the game so the goalkeeper gets loads of repetition?
Right, so really easy. So let's say you're working on did you say you do, before on the podcast, you said you did like a phase of play as a warm-up something. Did you say that?
Yeah, tend to as the kind of last 5 minutes before the game. Yeah,
so let's say that was in a training session, you do some kind of phase. So what you do is, coach has got the ball, right? The ball starts me every time. I'm going to pass it to the goalkeeper. And you might say to him, you've got to receive this. You've got to be higher than your 6-yard box, or you've got to be on the other side of the pitch to where I am. So if you're on the right, he has to be on the left.
Yeah.
So straight away, that kind of threads in a little bit of work away from the ball to provide yourself more space. Right, you pass it to him. Right, you've got 4 seconds to receive this and clip it or play it to where you want the start position to be, which would be where? Where would you want the start position to be in a phase of play, roughly?
I suppose it depends on where the ball is and where the opposition are.
Yeah. So where would you want it to start from, depending on what you're working on? Give me a.
Let's say fullback has the ball from a throw-in.
Right. Fine. So you would say to the goalkeeper, right, I'm going to pass you the ball. You've got to receive it on the opposite side of the pitch to me, wherever you are.
Yep.
And you've got 4 seconds to receive it and clip it to our fullback.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've got the ball right next ball. It goes into the keeper. Straight away, the keeper's under pressure because he's got 4 seconds and everyone's watching him. So we've cranked up that bit of pressure bit that you talked about before. And then he's got to execute whatever pass he deems correct at that time to get it to the fullback. And then the practice starts. The fullback gets some receiving skills because it's dropping into him and he has to adapt and accordingly. And then the practice goes. Everyone repositions, so a bit of transition. Everyone repositions, and then the practice is on its way, isn't it? So just that one bit that you just suggested there, if you add a couple of constraints to it around time and position, it gives returns for the players and for the goalkeeper.
It's a nice, really clear example of that. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to get you talking about, which was practice design, and kind of commonly held traditions, and where are your thoughts on practicing goalkeepers right now?
Any particular age?
Let's go right the way through the ages then. Let's start young and work up.
So the first thing I'd say with this, and it is a kind of worms and a massive topic, it's really important that you work backwards from the end in mind with everything that you're doing. So why are you coaching, or why is a goalkeeper coming to play in the practice or the session that you're doing? It's normally to have fun. It's normally to become better. It's normally to as a tiny picture in their development of being a young player. So first thing you've got to make sure they do is they love what they're doing, that they're coming along to love it. They don't want to be stood in queues. They don't want to be waiting a minute to have a touch of the ball. They want to be competing. They want to be playing games. They want to get a chance to do, unique multiple actions that their heroes do. De Gea and all them do. They want to be doing that kind of stuff. So don't take that away from them. Don't think that they have to go into that kind of massively processed, your foot must go here and your hand must go here to make this save in this scenario when I throw it to you. Just chuck them into situations, multi-directional situations that require them to come up with actions that stop the ball going in the net when they've got it, and they're either keeping the ball when they have or they're shooting when they've not. Okay, so they've got to be much before. They've got to be a kid first. I don't think you should solely specialise in just coaching or just being a goalkeeper or coaching a goalkeeper until they're about 14.
Yeah,
they should.
Why is that? I'm with you, but why? Why do you think that?
Well, potentially this might be a gross generalisation. I would say that the majority of goalkeepers in grassroots football, most football, wouldn't be the best movers in the group. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah. As a general rule.
Yeah, as a general rule on ABCs. And
now, it hasn't, because goalkeeping's caused that. Do you think that's because
they
haven't been a great mover? Yeah.
So you potentially, and if you think how majority of goalkeeping training looks, structured movement, small distance, restricted goes, etc. So you potentially put in a restricted mover into a restricted movement program. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So why would you do that?
Because we want to
win. As a coach, okay. So win.
I'm just coming at the flip side here.
Yeah.
I want to win the league. I want to win games. I want my team to win.
Okay. So that's well, I guess that's a common kind of outcome. Sorry, a common kind of response to that. So does having your goalkeeper just stood in goal in the middle, not being able to move, help that? Or do you want one that's able to run around, adapt to the situation, be athletic off the line, potentially take some risks to help your team, understand the game? Have they got that?
Yeah, I get that.
From standing round.
Yeah. So you would say start to sample early. So an example I can give is a few years ago I did the sevens at our club. I loved it. It was such a great year, and we had 28 boys in that age group. So we had 4 squads of 7 who played 5-a-side every Saturday morning, and we didn't have any goalkeepers. No. So what we used to do was take the bibs down and the gloves, and everyone had to take a turn in goal.
Yeah, training and games.
Yeah. So what used to happen was there were some that had no qualms whatsoever. They didn't mind. Some had a bit of a, and some they were almost tears. And knowing what I know about rewards and carrots and sticks, I probably wouldn't do it again this way. But what I did do was, the rule was, if you play the first half in goal, you play the second half outfield, so you get a full game.
Yeah.
So the carrot is, and I was just surviving. Just come on if you go a goal. If you play in goal, you play half, you get a full game. That's the rule, and that kind of was enough to appease them to have a go in. I only stayed with that group while they were under sevens, but there were other teams around who clearly had goalkeepers that were in. As it happened, a boy came to us the season after, and he was adamant that he didn't want to play anywhere but goal. He wanted to be a goalkeeper. And in fairness, he's fantastic, and he can move. He does other sports as well. He does gymnastics and tennis.
Yes, that's great. So he's supplementing it with doing other sports.
Yeah. I guess it's not a one rule fits all. But what happens if you do get the kid who just wants to be a goalkeeper?
I think you have to find out what they want to get out of it, like a little bit longer, further down the line. So yeah, they're enjoying it right now, but do you want to keep doing this for, a bit longer? Because ultimately, if you keep not moving much and not being involved with the team much and probably getting worse with the ball at your feet because you're not playing football enough, you're not going to do this for very long, and you're going to stop enjoying it. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm an advocate for it, is because I've done it the other way, so I've got it wrong. So I'm 15 years coaching now, give or take. So when I first started coaching, I started working with young kids, sometimes 6, 7, 8, well, a full spectrum, but 6, 7, 8, and I was like, right, I'm going to make you as a 6-year-old into like a professional young goalkeeper. And I coached them as you would coach a senior player, and they looked the part. They had the right shape. They moved their hands the right way. They could shuttle across the line and through ladders and do all the techniques or actions under the sun. They could do them all, and it looked great at the time. And what happened is exactly what I'm describing. They became not great movers, not great decision makers, because I was just doing actions with them, and ultimately the game caught up with them by about the age of 13, and they weren't actually able to function in games where they had to make decisions. They'd become so linear in the thinking and so reliant on knowing where the ball was going and just in like straight line practices. They didn't fit into the game. And
is that because in all those drills that you conditioned them in, they knew before you threw it or volleyed it where the ball was going to go?
Yeah.
So they do the movement pattern, hop over the cones or whatever they're doing. Yeah. And then get set.
And it was great for the now, Jack. It was brilliant. And as a coach, I felt so that the 3 people involved there was the coach, the player, and the parent normally. The parents normally watching. So everyone felt fulfilled because they saw the goalkeeper in goal getting a lot of success in the now. They saw them getting better at the perceived techniques that you need. And I, as a coach, was like, oh, he's getting better. He's doing this. And he looks like a mini Schmeichel or a mini De Gea or something here in what he's doing. So that kind of coaching is great for them now. If you want instant impact within 6 to 12 months, it's brilliant. If you want more long-term sustained development and ability, it's not that stuff. It's the bigger multi-directional invasion games where they have to run and defend space and defend the goal behind them and take risks and decide when they go and stay and how they come up with any given action to solutionize a position. I'm going to keep using that, solutionize. To solutionize a situation, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next game they play, or ultimately giving them the scenarios to make decisions will make them better goalkeepers.
Yeah, and I've been quite critical, and I'm probably going to leave myself open here to get hammered by the goalkeeping community here, but I have been quite critical in the past of the practice of serving out of the hands, purely from a perception and action perspective. Because if we're teaching players to predict and pick up cues and clues and triggers of people's body movements, even just the act of serving a ball out of the hands onto the volley, that will never happen in a game, and yet we practice it. And the other thing is the ball's coming at the goalkeeper with top spin. Yeah, and it has never happened and will never happen in the game that 6 yards out somebody drops it out of their hands and volleys it. And the same thing with throwing it. Now I can understand that kind of need to guarantee some success, but there's a trade-off and a balance to be had. If you're advising multi-directional ball in hand games, even just netball type games, if you don't have a goalkeeper in the team, what would you advise the sort of practices that might uncover or give some people some enthusiasm to?
Ask you, can we use our hands? Then you say and then they get the choice of do they come and close the space and get close to play and try and intercept it, or do they stay back deep and try and make some like reactional actions? And ultimately they'll end up coming up with their own unique way of stopping it going in the net. They might be a bit scared of the ball at first, so they'll end up like just throwing the feet at it or something, and then it'll keep going through. Then they'll work out that they need to stay more upright and stuff. And if they stay high, they might have to chase it back and like recover it from the line. It will all lead into kind of like blocking shots as a defender and getting in the way of the ball and being braver and stuff. So it just gives you loads of returns, just by giving it a go.
So on that then, where do you sit at the moment in terms of technique and set technique or individual? What's your thoughts at the moment?
My belief is we try and use the word action rather than technique.
Okay.
We use the word effective actions. We don't believe that there is a set technique for any given situation, because it's reliant on the ability and individual unique makeup of that goalkeeper. If you are extremely extremely fast and more compact in your physique, you'll naturally get to the ball quicker, and you'll be able to use a different action than to someone who's a bit slower with a much bigger frame, who won't get as close to the ball and will have to react differently to that one, to the first one that I described. So I think it's important to have some principles around where the ball is on the pitch in any given situation, so you can then stop it going in the net or intercept or dive at feet, or whatever it may be. But I don't think it is a one size fits all. This is what you do at this time for everyone.
Okay.
If I said to you, right, there's a ball out wide, your job is to stop it being played into the box and stop it going in the goal, you would do it different than I would. What's important is that it's successful.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
You said about principles.
Yeah.
What might be some of the common principles of say handling? So if I've got a goalkeeper and I don't necessarily know much about goalkeeping, and I get they need to be in game-based situations, and I'm all for let them try and find a solution to keep the ball out of the goal.
Do you mean solutionise?
Yes, that's the way. What are some of the principles that I might be able to just help that goalkeeper with?
Okay. So let's take, like, a lot of people talk about set position a lot, that there should be a certain set position for everyone. That goes back to the kind of everyone's different scenario.
Yeah.
What's important about set position or shape? It's important that you're in a comfortable, athletic shape that you're able to go into any given action from quickly.
So in principle, a goalkeeper would be beneficial to have a set position. You're saying that? So,
their own unique one.
So a set position in principle is something worthwhile.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it's dependent on the individual and on where the ball is, so the situation. So if I said to you, right, the ball's over there and there's your goal, I'd want you as Jack Walton to be in a comfortable but athletic position that you're able to go into a number of actions from. So that would probably mean that you wouldn't be flat-footed. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have your hands behind your back. Yeah. You'd probably have your weight forward, because we're talking about athletic, quick, and your legs probably wouldn't be in that wide a position where you wouldn't be doing splits. Yeah. So you're in a comfortable position where you can athletically.
Keepers that they've got to go and start wrestling or playing basketball. Mm-hmm. Maybe just finding out a little bit more about, do they do any other sports? So the boy that plays in goal for us, he plays rugby.
Oh, brilliant! That's great.
Yeah,
great crossover.
And so not afraid of the physical contact, and is really good at distributing from his hands. Yeah. So I guess it's looking at, might be looking at what you've got and what do they do, and how can you turn maybe some strengths into super strengths, which is something I've heard quite a lot recently.
I think that's a great, example. The rugby one massively as an example. A few football players who have played rugby to a high level. Same with cricket as well. Obviously linked to the same kind of stuff with the stance, the movement, and the throwing arm, throwing action. So there's loads of crossovers, and I think it's just healthy to do a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah. It goes back to what you were saying before about the age at which we specialise. It's staggering the number of goalkeepers who didn't start playing in goal till late. You said yourself you didn't start specialising until about 14, was that right?
Yeah. Look where I ended up. classics.
But yeah, did I read De Gea didn't specialise or start concentrating as a goalkeeper until he was about 15? Was that right?
Yeah, he always played in goal, but he did other stuff as well.
Yeah,
he made sure he did other stuff as well, which is important. Multiple other sports, and the same with a lot of our English goalkeepers didn't kind of specialise until kind of like 12, 14. Were really late into the system. Some of them even later than that.
Yeah.
Same with Courtois. I know he was definitely late in 14 as well, and they just specialised. So there's numerous examples of that happening. And I'm not saying you don't need to play in goal. So you need to have a variation of what you're actually putting your mind and body through as a youngster.
Yeah.
Or your youngster that you're working with. And going back to the kind of service one that you talked about around volleying the ball, it always comes back to the outcome. What outcome are you looking to achieve? If you place the most value of your practice or exercise, so you've got an hour with the goalkeeper or half an hour, if you place the most value in that, and you think you're going to get the most out of it around kicking the ball straight at them so they can catch it at the face, I would encourage you to keep doing it. If you think that's going to be most beneficial to what the game needs and to what the goalkeeper needs, keep doing it. If you think that the game's going to be random and there's going to be some unique actions and saves, and they're going to need to be adaptable, I would say you probably need to think about kicking at them in a different way, with different variation from different distances and angles.
Yeah, so let's break that down then. So you said your first experience of coaching was one-to-one.
Yeah.
You player, parent, let's say.
Yes.
Let's assume that that's not going to stop, and we might not want it to.
Yeah.
But if you could get coaches to maybe do something different, if they do find themselves working one-to-one with the goalkeeper, maybe the team aren't training, it might be a separate night of the week, it's goalkeeper training.
Yeah.
What might be some of the things that you would encourage them to either do more or do less of then?
Okay. So first thing I want to answer this question first before I go into that one. So you might need to ask it again.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting that goalkeeping training isn't important. It's very, very important, but it shouldn't be at the detriment of what the team and the game needs. Okay, so the needs of the team and the needs of any given game are what we're ultimately looking to aspire to fit into. Yeah, we're a specialist within the team, so we're looking to fit into it. So goalkeeping training is vitally important, not at the expense of team outcome, right? So once you've got your goalkeeping training, it's important that it looks as close to the game as possible, i.e. cues and triggers, distances, types of practice. So an example for the question you just asked might be, so traditionally you would say, right, Jack, we're going to start coaching now. So if you just stand in between them two cones, I'm going to volley the ball at you. I'm going to give you 10 volleys and you're going to catch them. All right, ready to go? Yeah. If I miss-hit one of them volleys, you'll normally hear this, oh, sorry, my fault, from the server. Right, actually, that was an opportunity for you to come up with a unique save there. So actually, I'm not going to apologise for that. So flip that on its head. How might you change it? Firstly, get into a goal if you can. If there's a full-size goal or a goal you can get into it. Because straight away you add a tactical element to it then around where you need to be stood. And I'm going to say this to you, right, Jack? You've got 10 balls to deal with now, okay? And I'm going to serve them from a different position each time. Ready? Go. So straight away, you've got to come up with a position and an action for 10 balls that are all different, okay? Now, some people will be listening to this thinking, yeah, but he's not warm yet. I'm in control of the service here, so I can make sure that I'm not going to do anything that will injure him. But straight away, you then have to be comfortable with finding an action or a solution to where I kick that ball. And because I keep changing position, that means you change your position as well. So straight away, the number of returns that them 10 balls give you as a player developing at any age versus the 10 that are just going to catch is much more. So if you go to the end of them 10 catches, so the 10 that was going to kick straight at you in the cones, how would you feel at the end of that?
What 10 in a row from the same place?
Yes. How would you feel as a goalkeeper?
I guess it depends how well I've done, but yeah, I'd probably be ready for a change.
But you'd feel fulfilled, wouldn't you? Like, I'm good at this. I'm good at catching.
Yeah, if I've just caught 10 in a row, yeah, I'm going to
caught 10 in a row. How would you feel at the end of the 10 random ones? Okay. If you'd have been successful in them?
What, all 10?
Yeah.
I'd probably be happier.
Why?
because the variance is greater, the challenge is different. You could argue greater.
Yeah. And would you feel like a bit more unbeatable?
I would like to think so, yeah. Without getting
think about where you've been stood.
Well, I've moved around, so I've had to decide upon where I need to be before you serve it.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of added layer of success there that I've been responsible for.
Straight away, there's just more outcomes, more things for you to consider, and options for you to take, really. And that's just an example of a really basic kind of warm up. And it's funny when you do that kind of warm up with someone who's not used to it. It's really foreign to them, and they're like, "Hang on, where are you going to put it?" And I'm not telling you. You've got to catch it when it comes, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So you're providing a scenario and a framework for them to come up with whatever action they want in it. And
all this without necessarily the need for ladders and flaming hoops of fire.
Don't think you need that.
No,
especially not within the goal mouth. Because that's not.
But that's common practice, though. You see that going on.
Just do it somewhere else. Or do it in the gym when you've got time to be on the grass within the goal. Practice the things that happen in a game. There's a time for them kind of plyometrics and power movements, but they can take place in the gym or off the side of a pitch. It shouldn't come away from the actual football bit of the ball being on the floor, being passed around, and going in at varying heights and speeds, normally from the foot or head.
Yeah. I think that's balanced.
Yeah. Just do it somewhere else.
Okay. Going back to the specialism.
Yeah.
So the coach out there who is very developmentally focused, wants to encourage players to have a go and goal, maybe works at under 12, under 13 level, having difficulty with it because that's going to mean sacrificing goals and outcomes of games. What advice would you give to those coaches out there?
This is the answer I keep giving, isn't it? Like, you've got to have the outcome for your season in place around what you're trying to achieve as a team and as a group of young players. So if it is to win the league at that age and just win at expense of all costs, you might want to find a specialist that just goes in goal and just does a job for you every week. If you want it to be like a team environment around developing players and becoming more all-encompassing and adaptable as young men and players, you probably want to give everyone a go at all the different things. So how might you go about doing it? Involving the young players in why you're doing it, explaining that some are going to like it more than others, but as is life, you have to make sacrifices in life and sometimes do things that you don't always want to do. So involving the players in why you would be asking them to play in goal or play out, and then also saying that you're going to support them and help them in doing it as well. I don't know if that's answered that question.
But yeah, I get it. But if you have got one that is dead set on going in goal and sees themselves very much as a goalkeeper, I guess the advice would be find out what else they're doing, if they're doing any other sports.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that. Sorry.
And help them to become better athletes and better movers.
Yeah, I came at that from the wrong angle, didn't I? Yeah. So if someone's got a passion and their love for goalkeeping at a young age, kind of 12 upwards is in goal, 100% let them play in goal and let them do it, let them express themselves, but also challenge and ask them, like you say, what else are they doing? If this is the skills that Jordan Pickford, Alisson, De Gea have got at the very top level, what are you doing now at 12, 13, 14 that's going to get you to that level of ball at your feet, explosive skills, explosive physical attributes and all that kind of stuff, making sure the two kind of marry up here. Yeah,
because I've fallen foul of this season. I put a desperate plea out on Twitter for any goalkeepers that wanted to come and have a game for our boys, because our goalkeeper fractured his wrist last summer, and in his healing process, the doctor said he can play outfield, but he can't play in goal. He's basically missing the whole season. Wow. And trying to get 15-year-olds to take a turn in goal is difficult, especially when the goals are raining in. But it has been. I think what it has done is it's made some of the boys really appreciate how difficult it is stick gloves on, all. It's been able to put themselves in the goalkeeper's mindset and have a little bit more empathy for them when they do go in.
I think you do find that, and it is. People say, I think it's really easy to look at it and just say we'll take it for granted. But until you've actually given it a go, and you realise the different challenges it throws up in terms of all corners of the game, be it physical or psychological or tactical, you don't really know till you've experienced it. And I feel sorry for some of the commentators who have to comment on the telly when the goalkeeper's made a mistake or a successful action, and they have to comment, they have to fill the air, because ultimately they haven't experienced that, being in that situation. So just to feel they're leaving themselves out to be flogged, really.
Yeah.
It does throw. It is a game within a game. It's a specialist position. It is different. I don't think it should be viewed as so different that it should be completely isolated. At the same time, it shouldn't be completely integrated as well. There's got to be a marry of the two. But when you give it a go and you realise the challenges it throws up, it just makes you empathise
That's the one.
a bit more. So yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoy your rants, should we call them, on Twitter, when I see some of the technical stuff that you come out with, and because, like you said, it is about embracing unorthodox and just positive actions to keep the ball out of the goal, and how they might do that, and supporting them with that. So again, one of the questions that came in was around the coach's role in feeding back and reinforcing or not. And I just want to pick your brain on, what are your thoughts on that at the moment?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So I think the question was around if you're working with a goalkeeper, what are some of the thought processes that go through your head in terms of whether you feedback, how you feedback, what you feedback?
As in, like reviewing
performance? Your coaching behaviours. So it might be out on the training pitch.
Yeah.
What are some of the processes that your thoughts go through, and does it depend on? And what are some of the factors that it might depend on?
Yeah. So I think it's important that the practices that you put on are as close to the game as possible, i.e. the distances that they serve from, and the intensity that it goes at, and also what's important, the consequence. There's a consequence to your actions. So if the ball goes past you and it goes in, it's a goal.
Right.
If you drop it, it's not just start again. You've missed that goal. That was your chance to catch it. So there must be a realistic kind of consequence behind your practices. How you feed that back, I think it's important. Always think it's important at any age to find out where the players are at. So I just think that you might ask a question such as, "How did you think that went then?" And use an open-ended question. Don't use a closed question. How did you think you did then? And ultimately, they'll offer up some kind of reflection on whether they thought they did well or they didn't. And then, a bit like you've done here, you've asked me to explore some of my answers a bit more. Like, give me an example. Give an example of why you thought you did well then. Oh, well, I thought I read play quite well. All right, how did you do it? Well, what I did was I started picking up some of the body cues, some of the body language of the players about where they were going to play it, and was able to cut out and intercept. Oh, that's brilliant. I think you should keep doing it, yeah. So definitely involving the players in it. If the players don't understand why they've not been successful or why they've been unsuccessful, that's then your cue as a coach then to step in and reinforce some kind of methods or strategies to maybe be better at any given, kind of 1v1 or a save or a pass. But just going in with the answer as a coach straight away. So at the end of the session, if I come over to you, right, Jack, distribution's got to be better there. You need to start playing through them two strikers all the time. I want you to do that next time. I don't even know why you didn't do it first. So find out where the player's at, and then between you and the player, then come up with how do you actually make it better, or how do you keep doing it, rather than just being a tell about the keep your foot square or do that more. So involve them in it more. Come up with an easy plan to make it better next time, so you're finding out where they're at as well, and then hopefully that forms like kind of that feedback loop of player knowing what they're doing, coach having an input, and then working out how to go forward.
Yeah.
Did that answer that question?
Yeah. The thing I like about it is you talk about the consequence, and I think it goes right back to what you were saying at the start about not making it too comfortable and too easy, and we should be looking to develop environments where it's safe to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I think Pete Sturgis talks about being able to throw the bath. I'm going to butcher this now, but basically Pete talks about creating an environment where you kind of throw the bath at them, and they'll feel safe.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important when you're looking at the players who, if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, rightly or wrongly, in our culture, it's deemed of greater significance than if a forward misses a chance. Let's say
it is. Ultimately, you can't get away from that.
Yeah,
you cannot come away from that fact, and people kind of use that as an excuse sometimes, but it's not an excuse; it's a fact. And this is by no means an excuse. It's just this is fact. So in that Star Sixes thing, and I remember it vividly. In the next game we played the next day, after the one that had gone under my foot, we played against the rest of the world, who were the star team there, really. They came second, maybe should have won it. And Mendieta was playing for them, and he was stood on the byline, on the touch line, like the throwing line, or the halfway, and someone passed it to him. He went to put his foot on the ball and wasn't looking, and guess what happened? Went under his foot for a throw-in. So the crowd say, "Woo," and then everything goes on.
It's forgotten about.
Well, it would never be mentioned.
Yeah.
But the consequence for it going out for a throw isn't as great as it going in the middle of the goal for a goal. So, but you cannot get away with that fact. So what that means to me is I needed to take more care in watching the ball onto my foot, because the consequence of me missing that is far higher than him missing it on the halfway line for a throw.
But it's still the same mistake.
It's still the same mistake, but my focus and intention of what I was trying to do there should be greater, because the risk is greater than he had. So that's not an excuse I'm making. That is a fact that it doesn't matter as much if you miss the ball, outfield versus in goal.
Okay, so as a grassroots coach, should we be dealing with those, let's say those two situations, any differently, or should we be treating them as exactly the same? So if the goalkeeper in our team lets the ball go under his foot because he's asked for it from his defender, and it goes in our goal, should I be treating that mistake any differently than, say, a midfielder receiving the ball goes under his foot and the opposition win it?
Well, ultimately, the reason that you don't look at the ball when you're receiving it is so you can scan and recognise what's going on. Yeah, and there's an argument to say that you should be able to do both and receive it as you're looking forwards or looking up. What you have to understand is that, like, if you don't get your touch right when you're in goal, the risk of it going in next time is a lot higher. But ultimately, at a grassroots level, you shouldn't treat that any differently. That would be down to principles about how you receive the ball. And one of the things would be, receive it so you can move the play and make sure you can see where it's going and all that kind of stuff. So grassroots level, no, I wouldn't treat that any differently.
Yeah, I just guess I'm really acutely aware of how much mistakes with goalkeepers can be highlighted, and what might, they're developing people, and the impact that one mistake might have, can be really, if not managed appropriately, can be really detrimental for a long way down the line. And they pick up on everything, every cue that we as adults on the sideline let off, even a sigh, look away, just the body language, they're acutely aware of everything that we do. And I think it's those moments that we, I suppose, we earn our spurs as coaches.
Yeah. That's where you earn your stripes, really. When a kid makes a mistake trying to do the right thing, that's when they need the support. And it's a complex thing to ask people to do, to see beyond the mistake and go with the intention. But ultimately, you're trying to help them longer term. So that's when they need the support of, look, you get the next one. You're trying to do the right thing. Keep going. Make sure you do the next 5 things right. Yeah. That's when they need that support and reassurance from you as a coach or a parent. And it takes, it's a complex thing to do as a human being.
Yeah, and to be fair, the age group that I'm at 15, the power of the peer group, you could argue is far greater than me as the coach. So if I can get that message to come from the players, not just me, they might not necessarily be as great.
Yeah, that's massive. If you can get that kind of, you can get the players self-managing that as a team. That carries even more weight, doesn't it?
Yeah. You talked. I'm going to jump it about a bit, if that's all right. You got time?
Yeah. Cool.
We talked about the DNA. Well, you mentioned it briefly before, and you got a nice little slide there.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed on your iPad.
Left it open.
Yeah.
Some games as well.
Give the listeners a bit of a flavour of what's out there, or maybe what's coming down the pipe in terms of the goalkeeping aspect of our England DNA.
Yeah, no problem. So we were, obviously, when the wider DNA was put together across education teams around identifying what we want to achieve and how we want to go about achieving it, we were in a fortunate position as a goalkeeping department to push on a bit quicker. So we went and put into place some characteristics, so basically some goalkeeping characteristics, or what you might call position-specific characteristics, and also a bit of a model about how we want the guys and girls to kind of put that into play on the pitch. So we came up with a list of it was a really long-winded process of things that we look for and we think are most important to be a top level elite goalkeeper. We weren't fluffy about it and good at this or can do this. It was the elite stuff, and it was about outcomes that they're able to do, not about behaviours like good at passing or can receive on the back foot or can make a top corner save. It was outcomes. So it was stuff like makes big saves, has got nerve strength, is able to exploit space in possession, physical presence, things like that. So we came up with a list of 19 characteristics, which took a certain amount of time. It took a long time, about 3 months. And then we defined each word, which took about another 3 or 4 months. So we were really clear as a department around what these characteristics were, and we were all able to work backwards from which ones were the most important, which ones certain players had and were able to do, which then allowed us to go into dialogue with players and with coaches around, right, if you're working as an under-16 goalkeeping coach and you want your goalkeeper to, let's say, exploit space in possession, make big saves and have nerve strength, presence, whatever, your practice should be promoting them 3 or 4 things. So going back to before, it probably isn't about kicking the ball straight at the face. It's probably about giving them the situation to express themselves, to make big saves linked to their unique ability, put them under pressure when they've got the ball, so they have to come up with a solution for in possession, kind of. So it allowed us to work backwards with the end in mind, really. So
when you're working with players, say on camp, how much of the time are you spending on current strengths, or current areas for development? Where's the focus?
It's always everything, but we use like a graphic equalizer kind of session plan, thought process thing to put our practice in place. So if I'm with the under-21s and we're playing Spain in 2 days' time, we're probably doing a decent amount of the practice around what challenges Spain might throw up to us. If we're 4 days before that, away from the game, we might be working on some of the biggest strengths around excelling in them and becoming even better at them, or fine polishing some slight weaknesses in the game. So that would then be more about the individual further away from the game. Closer to the game, it would be more about what they're going to have to do in it. So that changes all the time. I think the most important thing with that, Jack, is understanding which bit you're at any one time. So if you're a day before a game and you're just doing catches to make them feel good, is that the right thing, rather than making them aware of what the game's going to need from them at that time?
And I guess you've got the added element that you're not working with these guys every day.
No.
Like the clubs, you've only got them for a finite amount of time.
Yeah,
but it's tournament football.
It's also a big portion, because like the international players would come away with us, people say you don't work with them much, but it works out about 50, 60 days a year. So if you put that into the calendar, it's about a fourth or a fifth of on pitch time. So if you're flippant with that and say, oh, it doesn't just matter, we'll just warm them up and let them play, that's dangerous. There's still a big chunk of development and time for them to get better there.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was really impressed with, again, from the presentation before Christmas, was that strategic planning, almost down to the minute, for every eventuality across the whole season and beyond, and the tournament. And should we get to the semi-final, should we get to the final, everything mapped out individually. That must take some doing.
It does, yeah, it does. But we can't leave any stone unturned, and we want to get the most out of every goalkeeper or every player that comes with us. And there are ways to improve and to make them get better. And some of the things they might do with us might be different to what they do with the clubs. So we've got to tailor that to reflect it. And if you spend too much time just doing generic stuff, you ain't getting into the nooks of actually what's needed for them to perform at the top level.
Yeah, must be enjoyable though.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, really, really rewarding. It's brilliant. And I have to say, the work that we did as a department around the goalkeeping DNA stuff has been really beneficial, because we were able to work backwards from what we see as most important, and challenge each other on that. And it's informed how we coach, and it's allowed us to measure our performance to say, are we actually delivering what we said we would? And because that process involves the players as well, and they clearly understand, right, I've got to have this, whichever one of the characteristics it is, it's really clear outlook and mindset from everyone around, what are we working towards here?
Yeah, and I guess it's something that I've heard a lot in our division, is that if you're standing still, you're going backwards. So what's coming next in terms of the DNA and the goalkeeping element? Yeah,
so first of all, we got our own house in order as regards all of our coaches on the same page, working to the same outcome, and designing our program accordingly. Now that has filtered into some of the goalkeeping courses and outfield courses, and in years to come, in months to come, the next thing is that is at the epicenter of each course. So then messages are filtered into each course, and the courses work backwards from that. So it filters down into the clubs, into the grassroots, into all the coaching and development for goalkeeping and goalkeepers across the country. And hopefully it just gives people the ability to empower people to come up with rationales behind their coach linked to what they want to get out of it at the end.
Yeah.
Our approach isn't this is how you do it, this is the way, go and do it. It's come up with some ideas that you believe are important and adjust your coaching or support style accordingly. So that's how it works. And there's been some good evidence of that recently. There's numerous professional clubs who have actually put their own one in place, their own kind of DNA in place, and characteristics and ways of measuring it in place. So it's good to see that people have just, it's like I said at the beginning, what did I say at the beginning? I can't remember. It's not me passing on knowledge. It's me just suggesting ideas and ways that people might consider doing stuff. So
yeah, and I think that's one thing that is always I've always enjoyed about your company is you're very open to suggestion and challenge, and very anti sort of dogmatic about things. And I think that comes across well. And you said there about the clubs taking responsibility for that. I can see it trickling down now into grassroots. Just the other day, somebody sent me a project of a learner. I think it was Steve Lilly, actually, one of his learners down in Gloucestershire, Bristol. And the level of detail that this coach had gone into around the team, it was on his level 2. I think it was an under 12s team, I want to say. But I was absolutely blown away by it. It was really inspiring. So I think the work that you're doing, it is getting out there and is affecting the way that people think about goalkeeping and being part of the team.
Yeah, and that was my ultimate goal at the beginning of it, was to challenge the way people think about how they coach and what they do, and ultimately to unearth, empower, and inspire young goalkeepers and young coaches to create the next generation of goalkeeping, and for us to be at a world level or world class level, and we're getting towards it. It's exciting. Some some really exciting young keepers coming through in both in the male and female game.
Yeah.
There really is some exciting young ones coming through, and someone asked me that I saw some. Someone asked me the other day, why aren't in class, or no one aspires to be them. I'm like, 5 years they will. Give it another 5 years, and there'll be some top ones there. I'm confident of that. Yeah.
The amount of kids I saw running around with their Pickford shirts on in the summer, it was great to see. So I mean, we'll start to wrap up now with some of the questions that I sent you beforehand. But before that, you just mentioned about the evolution of goalkeeping.
Yeah.
Where do you see the role of the goalkeeper in the coming years, 5 or 10 years?
Yeah.
We don't obviously know what maybe rule changes might be around the corner there, but what do you think?
It'll please a lot of people to hear me say that it will never come away from the most important thing about stopping it going in the net. Yeah, that will never change.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what they will have to be able to do, or keep being able to do. I think we're going to see more of a thinking goalkeeper who tactically understands the game a bit more with and without the ball. So goalkeepers that are able to be proactive in the decision making to prevent things from happening rather than react to what's happened. So that might mean more interceptions, playing higher, maybe a bit more risk. And then with the ball, definitely more connected to the team in terms of the positioning and using their position on the pitch to affect where the opposition and how the opposition press. So I don't think there's going to be a massive change in that because it's already happening. But we're going to see more kind of thinking goalkeepers who are proactively managing situations rather than reacting to situations. Yeah.
Really. And just from your notes there, is there anything that we haven't, or that I've not asked you, or that we haven't discussed?
No, I don't think so. No. Like I said, if we have missed anything, I'm more than happy to pick some stuff up, online or whatever. I've got no problem doing that. So
cool. Yeah,
I can pick stuff wherever really.
Okay, so these are some questions that I ask, or I try to ask everyone that comes on. So I sent them through to you. So you said you started coaching 15 years ago.
Yeah, kind of age 20 really, straight away when I was finishing my scholarship.
So if you were going to go back to that 20-year-old Tim, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give him?
Right, you don't have to create a Premiership goalkeeper in 4 or 5 sessions. So the sessions that the Premiership goalkeepers might be doing are probably not correct to the ones that the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds do. They need to be more free. They need to be doing more invasion, multi-directional games where they have to come up with solutions rather than be prescribed actions that they have to do. And they need to end up being adaptable decision makers rather than kind of functional responders. When I was at Man City, so I finished, I had a complaint from a parent, went into the head of coaching and said, I ran a goalkeeping session age 9 to 13 of an evening, and it did an hour with me and an hour with the group. And the complaint was worded like this: Tim, we've had a parent come in and they've complained about the goalkeeping training that you're not coaching them, all you're doing is playing games with them. They want to do some goalkeeping coaching instead. So I didn't know whether it was a complaint or a compliment. So I took it as a compliment, as they were playing like multi-directional games where they had to come up with different decisions given whatever topic I put on the night. So.
I think that's a common thing that coaches hear and feel around the country. I only had one last Wednesday night. I decided to keep myself grounded by going in and doing an hour with the 6-year-olds at our club, and one of the coaches was missing, so I went and helped out for an hour, and it was great. It was complete chaos. Probably spent half the session teaching kids how to tie shoelaces. It was a complete mess, but weirdly, because I've not done that age for a few years, the parents were outside watching, and I'm sure none of them were thinking this, but I still felt, I wonder what they're thinking and whether they expect tidiness and regimented. But
I went and did a conference in Scandinavia last year, and they asked me to do a presentation and then a pitch session, practical. And I said what topic, and they wanted to do it on the hot topic that is like blocking, spreading, smothering, foot saves type of stuff. So I've got a theory on this, and I've got a way of coaching it which has been successful over the last kind of 8 or 9 years. So I get there, so I put an activation exercise on. So as the players get there, there's a little small game set up with 2 mini goals, and they can only use the feet when they've got the ball. When they've not got the ball, they can only block it or win it back with the hands.
Okay. And how many would be playing in that?
Like 2v2,
okay.
So 4 goalkeepers.
Yeah.
It can be up to 3v3. So
how far away are the goals?
Like 15 yards.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, you just
mini soccer goals.
2 mini goals, yeah.
Mini soccer goals.
Mini soccer goals. So basically, you get loads of situations where you're trying to dribble past me or kick it past me, and you change the conditions to make you get double points if you do a one-touch finish, stuff like that. So I start this exercise off, and where I was taught, I was going into a load of kind of, my next practices were going to be around the technique, around where you would put a certain technique or action into the situation. And the dilemma I was in, I had 4 goalkeepers who were experimenting with all different situations in this mini game I've set up, and I'm about to stop the game to take them into pre-prescribed techniques and actions that the coaches want to see me doing. And I actually said it to them, and I don't think they understood, because it's quite a deep level of understanding that. And I was like, look, I believe they're getting more from this exercise here than what I'm going to do with them. So that was a good example of like that kind of play scenario where they've got to come up with stuff versus just doing the action. So
and it's not being married to your plan.
Yeah,
I think, which is something that I've fallen foul many a time, where you spend that time planning, and by hook or by crook, confident this is getting delivered.
this is getting
you're having it.
That was a really good example of it. And the other one, just to touch on what you were saying there, is probably this. This is like, I'm asking people to think that, if anyone's listening out there, as whatever environment you're working in as a goalkeeping coach, so being an academy coach, a grassroots coach, running a soccer school, all that kind of stuff. Picture yourself on the grass coaching. If you're the academy manager or a parent, a paying parent, an elite player's parent, and you go to watch a goalkeeping session, what things are you expecting to see? So go on, Jack, give me some things as an academy manager, or a head of coaching, or a manager of a club. As Marco Silva walks past this session, or Brendan, or right down to the grassroots, your coach, what do you expect to see your goalkeeping session looking like?
Good question.
Not you, the normal coach.
The
head of coaching.
What would the head of coaching expect to see
as they wander past
from a goalkeeper? Just a goalkeeper session. What would I want?
Not you.
What would they want?
Yeah.
That's a difficult question to answer. I don't know the answer.
I'll answer it for you. So, head of coaching or academy manager or parent walks past the goalkeeping session, right? They expect to see goalkeepers working hard. That means flogging themselves, getting up and down, making multiple saves in a row. They expect to see whose voice and whose energy in the session. The coach shouting, encouragement, instruction, information all the time. They probably expect to see the coach serving and kicking some stuff, yeah? Mm-hmm. And they expect to see probably loads of repetition of all that kind of stuff, and it being functional and it all happening. But actually flip that to what the game looks like. It looks like the opposite. There's no noise from the coach. There's no service from the coach. And random things happen all the time, and lots of decisions have to be made. So what people expect to see versus what needs to be seen are 2 different things. So it's also a good way of looking at that question.
Yeah, it's a nice way to put it. Okay then, so this might tie into it, but what have you changed your mind about over your coaching career, or even recently?
Similar to the other question, really. Yeah. Like, I think maybe our culture as well, as people of the UK, are. I think we want everything now, and everything's in a rush, and we want to see the end product right now and be the best now. But actually, I think we just need to relax, take our foot off the gas a bit, and let it evolve. Let people try things. Let people take risks. Let people experiment.
Do you think that's partly down to the smartphone?
Technology. Yeah, I found that difficult I found that challenging over the last probably 10 years. The amount of access people have got to sessions and copying people's drills and exercises without the thought and the rationale behind them has been dangerous. The best sessions have got good rationale and reasoning behind them, whereas just putting on a drill because they saw someone else do it on YouTube is really, really dangerous. So I think just slowing down a bit, especially at a younger age, technique right now. What is most important is that they're enjoying it. They've got character, personality, belief. They've got confidence. They try things. That's what's most important.
Yeah, good. And then lastly, this could be, you can go left field and often tangents on this one if you want. What have you seen, read or heard recently that's had an impact on you, made you think?
That's a difficult one. I'm not a big reader. I prefer to listen to stuff. I prefer to read short stuff and kind of go back in history on quotes and successful people and successful teams. Nothing massively really.
What are you listening to at the moment then?
Listening to a lot of podcasts, all different types of ones around learning, around how people pick up ideas and how culture evolves. The best way to structure learning and adult learning, stuff like that. Yeah. But nothing jumps out at me. Sorry, I can't answer that question.
So on the culture then, you've been coaching 15 years. I've been working in the game for a similar amount of time. When you look back, do you think that the culture of football in England has changed or is changing?
Yeah, I think it has changed and it is continuing to change.
In what way?
Just people being a bit more open to different possibilities, a bit more flexible in the thinking, to be comfortable that it can look different and it can be different. I don't think we should ever come away from what the main principles of football are, and especially us as in our case as Englishmen, should be around what our strengths are as a nation. We are an island, we do go into battle. Historically, have gone into battle, and that's built into us. We survive. So we've got to tap into that, make sure we don't come away from it completely, but at the same time embrace some of the culture and approach that the foreign games brought us, which would be more about the risk and adaptability stuff and the more laid back approach.
Because I know that's something that that's happened quite a lot on camp, where the teams are being challenged to recognise who we are as a nation and as a team.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you can share about the stuff that you've done with the players on camp around that identity.
I think it's probably just being a bit more open about it, and around being, sometimes we presume that we kind of know what our identity is, and it might have become a little bit lost and a little bit grey. So I think it's just being a bit clearer around this is what we are about as a nation, and how does that play out in your world or in your situation as a 15-year-old lad or a 19-year-old girl, and how does it play out on the pitch and how we behave off the pitch and stuff. So just all understanding where we come from and how we are and how we act. So I think that would be the only insight into it. Yeah, there's no magic potion with it by any means. So
no. I'm not sure if there's any of those.
No, I'm just looking. Someone asked about Peter Chilton or Ray Clements. Ray Clements, definitely.
It's the largest hands of any man I've ever shot.
Largest hands, yeah. Big hands help. The way he played the game, and a bit I went back before, he was a thinking goalkeeper. He was proactive. He took risks. I really like the way he played the game and thought outside the box. Yeah,
certainly well thought of in these parts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think been quite clear around decision making in practices, rather than implied techniques. I think we've probably touched on that. There's a good question around rotation in goal at a young age. I don't think you can put it in as a rule, but I think we could definitely say it's something we should follow around giving people a turn in goal and a turn out. Yeah, I think that'd be good. But no, I think we've best GK of all time. I'm a massive fan of Lev Yashin. He was amazing. Really liked watching it. I know it was all them years ago, but wow, he did play the game in an aggressive manner, and his physical attributes, he maximised them to what the game needed. So that was that one. That's about it, really. I think we've covered everything.
We have. We've gone through it all. Tim, it's been fantastic to have you. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, no, it's been fine. I think I've probably waffled on a bit and maybe not been as clear as I would have liked to have been, but I think that probably sums up the game and football, that it is a game of opinions and they're constantly changing. There isn't one size fits all. And yeah.
I think it's good to turn these things off for a couple of hours and sit down and have a proper conversation that doesn't necessarily happen too often these days. So no, I really, really thank you for giving up your time there, mate. I really appreciate it. Actually, timely, because if people want more content or want more stuff, I know you've written some articles that are on the Boot Room.
Yes,
that'd be right.
Yeah, there's some stuff on the Boot Room. Some of the materials around the DNA stuff, the characteristics, and the how we play is out there as well. It's on the Boot Room. It's on courses. It's on the Twitter pages and stuff. So. Yeah.
And then the goalkeeping conference is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's on the 14th of April, I believe. I think that's Sunday the 14th of April. It's a one-day event this year. Yeah. So we've just yesterday we just had confirmation of one of our guest speakers, and actually both yesterday confirmed the guest speaker and the guest practical session both confirmed yesterday. So
I'm
not gonna say who they are. I'm gonna say this: the guest practical presenter is from a Premiership club who are doing very well thought of, and the guest speaker will blow everyone away.
And then so they can coaches can book onto that. Just fa.com.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they've probably I got a newsletter about it yesterday, so imagine everyone on the licensed coaches list will have got one as well. And timely, actually, because on Tuesday night, so that is, what are we today? The 1st, 5th of February, we've got Keith Rees doing a goalkeeping CPD event at the County FA.
So that this Tuesday?
This coming Tuesday, yeah. So get this out today, Friday. Keith's doing a CPD event Tuesday night down at Liverpool FA. That's free to book on. I think 6:30 to 9:30. So you can book on at liverpoolfa.com.
Very good.
So I think we're just about covered. Yeah. Fantastic.
Well,
Tim,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming down, mate. I really appreciate it. So I'm glad we put it in.
I had my haircut for it as well, for the podcast.
You look great for the audio version. And let's hope that the YouTube live went okay. We'll check on that in a second. So, yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Cheers, mate.
Bye then. Right.
Just